think he's a total spoofer. Why should be a spoofer? This is bullshit.
Wolves coming back from an offside position, but Shane Long was definitely onside. Shane Long has done it!
I'm going to enjoy it tonight.
And you should as well.
Thanks very much.
Well done.
But
unless he's breastfeeding, he should be alright.
Well, it's not the World Cup warm-up that we had hoped for, but it was a strange friendly game in the end, James. Not one, but 2 red cards. I can't remember the last time that we've seen that in friendly competitions, but Hamer's dark arts still continue. However, it's not going to be enough to take the conversation away from the FAI this week, as decisions to take in fulfilled fixtures against Israel this autumn re-enter the new cycle now, with fixtures 121 days away. This is Ireland Radar. We are back in the Flirt FM studios this week after James has made the journey back to
2.5 hour drive just for the love of Irish football podcasting.
For the love of the game. I think you desperately missed me. But we're back. I was in Dublin yesterday talking about journeys, making my 5.5 hour journey round trip. It's like you'd almost hope that there was a member of Ireland Radar that lived, a bit closer to the stadium than in Galway, James. But that's not it.
We maybe recruit a third member of Ireland Radar that lives in the Greater Dublin area. It could be kind of a good move going forward, maybe.
I think if we have someone from Wicklow, it's enough. Anyways, it's not that much of a journey. But I was there yesterday, and it was a strange game, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I think scrolling through the headlines and the papers today, as I usually do, not an awful lot of talk about the football itself, which maybe doesn't come as a surprise. I think, as I alluded to a bit earlier, it is set to be a big week in Irish football, I suppose a big 120 days or so until those games against Israel. And I think we were given a suggestion after the antics of yesterday's game that issue is not going to go away quietly. Maybe something that the FAI won't be too happy about. We'll start on the football to begin with. It was a strong exile from Ireland. I thought with the friendlies going in that this might have been the one that we experimented a bit more with, but I think in the end with the fragmentation of the squad and players going and coming, that the Canada game now turns out to be one that we experiment with. But the lineup is probably one that we'll see similar enough to how we line up in September for our opening Nations League campaigns. Maybe the only exception is Jamie McGrath was playing this game. It's unknown will he be involved. It was his first international appearance since I think June of 2024, which is surprising for a player of his quality.
Yeah, he was obviously extremely liked by Kenny. The pair had worked together at Dundalk, and that kind of, I think it was the 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign where he played Portugal twice. That qualifying campaign Jamie McGrath was really involved in, and kind of since then has kind of dropped out of favour, and definitely this season has been unfortunate to miss out on some squads. Given I think we referenced this last week that he did win Hibs Player of the Year and Hibs Fans Player of the Year as well last week or so. So yeah, definitely someone that we should be kind of, if he does keep this form up going into September, someone that should be in and around the conversations.
Funny story there as well. He got the call. He came back from his holiday. He had only landed about an hour or so, and he got the call to join the Ireland squad.
I think I would have been faking an injury.
I think that shows your commitment to more than most. But I think he had the quote saying that his leg would have had to be hanging off if not for him to deny the call up. The other international that feature that we probably won't see much of, or we might not see in his starting 11 come September. Although I mean, I'd argue for his place would be
after that performance.
Jack Moylan. Look, it's hard to talk about his performance too much because of that freakish red card. On first viewing, when I looked at it on the monitor when we were covering the game, I thought, yeah, red card. Like, he was over eager. He was absolutely flying, throwing himself into tackles. It's obviously his Aviva debut for his country. I think it seemed to mean just so much to him, which was kind of obvious in this game. But my God, like that, he's a very harshly done there in that red card challenge.
It's never a sending off. From my point of view, it's fortunate to be a foul, to be honest. Never mind a yellow card. Just a really stupid, rash decision from the referee. Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about where the referee is from, and previous occasions of sending Irish players off, which was Festia Basele in under 21's game a couple of years ago, 2 very soft yellows, from what has been said online anyway. And even someone in the Irish National League, which many fans there were like really kind of laughing at how he was reffing an international fixture and not surprised at the performance he gave. And even like outside the context that I think it was lucky to be a foul, like you just don't see sending offs in friendlies, as you referenced at the start, and just to do so just before half time so rashly, just to send them off, especially, I know this doesn't really factor into the referee's decision, but especially in the case of Jack Moylan, who his first home start for Ireland, it was really, really kind of frustrating to see. But outside of that red card, I thought Jack looked really, really bright in that first half. And
I was watching the game, and I think I had a couple of tweets about it, and obviously like frequent listeners of the show will know how big a fan we are of Jack Moylan. Maybe too much of times, maybe if there's a bit of bias towards him, just because he's such an entertaining player to watch. But I was watching the game, and first of all, the energy he brings, it's clear he's an entirely different player than Finn Azaz is. But I was watching early on, I think when I was writing my early report, I said it's amazing how his link-up play with the attackers that he's not played much football with at all was incredible. It looked like him and Parrott were moving on the same.
That was Daryl Parrott and Moylan, just like watching that first half, just 2 real street footballers, like they linked up really well, technically good, really energetic, and yeah, just really, really exciting first half in terms of those 2 players link up, and yeah, obviously you can point to Qatar, the opposition, and their kind of real lack of energy and kind of aggressiveness throughout the whole game, and say maybe that's why he shined. But I think you have to give Jack some sort of credit in terms of how well he played in that first half, even leaving aside the red card.
Yeah, and he's involved with the first chance of the game with Seamus, linking up with Seamus Coleman and Ogbenny. Just a couple of minutes later, then he wins a free kick, which he takes to assist for the first goal and the only goal of the game, with Nathan Collins nodded in just 5 minutes in. Like I didn't like, to be honest, I've only watched really clips and highlights of Jack Moylan and stuff this season, so I wasn't so much expecting him to be such a good set piece taker, because he brought in a couple of corners. I mean, we've heard from Hamer, he's given like briefs and like tactical guides to press and stuff like that, how important Finn Azaz is to his team, that he's kind of the fulcrum of all the attacking moves. But I mean, if Jack Moylan can start the championship season strongly, I think Lincoln City have just lost their manager today, but Azaz will have to be looking over his shoulder for his place, because Moylan looks determined to. And Hamer said that the red card will do no harm to his chances.
And the fact, obviously the assist comes from really good set piece. We know how much Hamer prioritises set pieces in terms of how we create chances, how he prioritises having guys in the squad with really good delivery. That all bodes really well for Jack. And I think obviously anyone who's seen any of Jack the past season, seen his goal compilations, like it's very much obviously being in the right time, in the right place, scoring all sorts of goals, being dynamic, being able to take his man on. But the one bit I was really happy to see, like aspect of his play that was really, really positive, was like physically, athletically looks really just up to that level of international football. I know it's a friendly, I know it's against Qatar, I know the game was lacking a lot of energy, but it's just nice to see that, because in, I'd say, years gone by, I know Jack's not in the League of Ireland now, but we've had like players in that number 10 position like Graham Burke or Jack Byrne, who technically outstanding players, as good as anyone in the squad, but physically just not able to come up to that level of international football. And I know I'm probably reading far too much into this. We are Jack Moylan. We do run a Jack Moylan fan club, but
it's a friendly game, and we cover international football. And
yeah, so we have to read too much into things. But I think it just, for obviously the set piece side of things, excellent delivery for the goal, bodes well for Jack in terms of obviously how much Hamer prioritises that, but also physically, athletically, he looks up to the level, and obviously going into the championship season, which is the championship notorious for being such a physical, athletic league, it just bodes really well for him. And yeah, I don't want to put any curse on him, but I'd be really confident of him being able to settle into the championship really well.
Yeah, and I think we alluded to in last week's show, it's interesting him and Jamie McGrath coming back into the team like he is, because they're like, although Jamie McGrath played as a centre midfielder yesterday, they're likely going to be competing for the same spot behind Azaz in the team that's without Harvey Vale. Like that position has suddenly out of nowhere become of one of such competition. But anyways, you mentioned how kind of dull this game became in the end, and that's in part to kind of the showcase image of this game just 5 minutes later after the goal, kind of shades of 2019 with the tennis ball protests. And of course this was against the Israel game. There was a bit of confusion as to where it was starting from in the ground, but we've seen when the tennis balls were thrown onto the pitch, they had a sign on them which stopped the game. Of course, not in reference to this game, but to the games that would be happening around October time. There was some banners coming around. There was Ireland fans chanting "Free Palestine." There was all these showcases to put pressure on the FAI, and of course, this is coming a week where this game altogether, although it was a game that was already going under the radar, became even more so shrouded in this kind of pressure to on the FAI with the Israel game, because, as David Sneyd reported in the 42, that FAI's General Assembly is preparing to motion a boycott the Israel game, and as he revealed today, it has reached its 10% quota, which of at least 145 delegates required for an EGM to hold a non-binding motion to boycott the Israel game due later this year. James, it's not an easy subject to talk about, but it's better to talk about it than say nothing at all. And of course, first of all thought Richie Sadler talked excellently well on RTE.
I thought he was outstanding, absolutely outstanding in an era of football pundits and lots of former players kind of trying to dissociate sport and politics and kind of sitting on the fence. Richie coming out, obviously on behalf of working for the national broadcaster, but on live television, to come out with such a strong opinion towards boycotting the Israel games and getting them stopped, I think was just really, really nice to see. Obviously our own thoughts on the situation we put forward a number of months ago about that we kind of would obviously agree that the game shouldn't go ahead. I think as Richie said last night, I don't think we should be in a position to welcome Israel to the Aviva, fly their flag, have their national anthem sung, and for their president to meet, to shake Catherine Connolly's hand, especially in the wake of the terrible things that have happened to Catherine Connolly's sister in recent times as well. So kind of all those things together, and even outside of if those people who do want to separate politics and sport want to kind of throw that argument at me, what I would say is the current ongoing situation in Israel is, for me anyway, it's not just a political kind of issue, but it's a human rights issue. And I think, as obviously, not to delve too much into politics, but as a country which has suffered so much at the hands of human rights issues, at the hands of colonialism and all those things, I think it'd be just really wrong for us not to protest and stand up and not want these games to go ahead. In terms of what will happen in the future with regards how we get these games stopped, obviously you referenced that the General Assembly of FAI has reached a quota required to hold that EGM in terms of to get the games called off. I think that they're pretty confident that a majority will be reached if they do that, and that there is a likelihood of that happening. But like on the other hand of things, would it turn if the games don't get called off, which is likely given how spineless UEFA have been with this situation and how determined the FAI seem to be of playing the games, would our form of protest towards the matches turn into a boycott of some sorts? And my greater question would be what that boycott would turn into. Would it be effective at all? Would it just turn into an empty gesture? I don't really know. I'm not an expert on boycotts or protests or anything like that, but difficult issue. But I think it's definitely important that, as we said, we put forward our opinion on the matter. How do you see it kind of going from here in terms of how does it manifest in the coming months, do you think?
I'll delve into the context of the whole situation first. Obviously the letter sent to the delegates of the association General Assembly members are being asked to back the motion. The 42 today understands that the FAI will receive a requisition document, and under the association's rules, an EGM could be called within 60 days. The motion has been proposed by the Professional Footballers Association of Ireland, PFAI, which I believe is chaired by, I think Pico Lopez is a member of this, and he's someone who's come out against it along with a number of people.
I think it was a number of, didn't the captains of the League of Ireland sign a letter against it or something like that? I've seen that in the media recently.
Irish Football Supporters Partnership, the CK United Cork City and Bohemian FC, and EGM prior to the FAI AGM last year, 93% majority of the General Assembly voted to put forward a motion to UEFA to suspend Israel from official competition. FAI CEO David Carell has rejected suggestions Ireland should boycott the Israel clash, claiming the governing body has no choice and could face serious consequences if the team choose to participate. I'll give my opinion on that in a minute. And in a PFAI survey, 63% of participants said Ireland should not fulfil the fixtures against Israel in the Nations League. Now, the players and managers have all come out against this to say as well. They have given their own opinions. Nathan Collins kind of stands by the FAI, but so does Hamer. He doesn't want Israel to be included. He thinks it's up to UEFA, but I think he says it's not in their hands.
He did say after the game, I think it was off the ball, that if Russia was suspended, obviously in those circumstances, then why not Israel? So that's probably some important context there in terms of what Heimer's stance on it is. And I think he did say before that he respected the protests, even though he would have rather that they came in the second half when we were a man down and 1-0 up.
Yeah, Neil O'Riordan from The Sun also says a lot happening around this, but I understand the FAI board will meet on Tuesday with a single item on the agenda, moving the game against Israel on October 4th out of Dublin to a neutral venue. Like, as you say, look, I think worse guys out there in this situation than the FAI and that's UEFA. I don't think it should ever have come to this. I think Israel should have been suspended from UEFA competitions, but even if you look at the Russia situation, that took so much political pressure for that to
and
even
it took
happen.
a number of teams to not want to play Russia. Like, it wasn't UEFA coming out and making a moral decision. It was being pressured into a decision to suspend Russia through a number of teams refusing to play them.
I think it's completely unfair for the FAI and the Irish government to leave this question in the hands of a national team manager who's not an Irish citizen, and to a number of players in their, you forget how young these footballers are sometimes. Like, this is a young Irish squad, especially that younger than it has been in a number of years, but all these players are in their mid-20s at a push. A lot of players younger than that, we're celebrating players making their debuts and they're being put in awkward situations. I agree with the protest. I think this game should be suspended or should boycott. I think that there's been ministers and government officials saying that there's fears, and within the FAI as well, that there will be further deductions from UEFA or further punishment. I don't think that's a realistic factor. I think UEFA don't have the grounds to punish Ireland further. They struggle to find the ground to punish
I think
Ireland
moving
further.
the game to a neutral venue would be punishing us, like, completely. Do you know what I mean? Like, our game at home against them in a competitive environment gets moved to neutral without the support of our fans, without a home advantage, which has seen us being unbeaten. I think it was number last 7-8 games. The timer mentioned, like, why should we be punished because UEFA refused to sanction Israel, and because, like, people are obviously going to want to protest at the game. Like, I don't understand how we should be punished for that as well, which is another element to it.
Yeah, as you said, you kind of alluded to just a few minutes ago. I fear that this is going to be moved to a situation that we normally see. I was just reading up on all the messages of support they were supposed to have in Qatar for, like, gay rights and workers' rights and all that stuff, that always ended up coming down to a dull, meaningless symbol of support, which just happened to be like an armband or something like that. I fear a situation where it's just going to be moved to a neutral venue. I think if the game does go ahead, it's not going to go ahead in Dublin. I think that's clear after yesterday. There's no way this is going to happen in Dublin. But if it goes ahead, I fear of a symbolic gesture that's not going to mean anything or do anything, and it's not going to be talked about after the game. I think the FAI, like everyone around this has a chance to make a statement. I don't think it's fair to put the players in an awkward situation. I think by not boycotting this game, you're putting the players in a much more awkward situation than if you were to go ahead and play it. You're asking players to go around and kick football with allowing other players from the symbol of genocide, which what it is, with having their ministers come over or having the Israeli flag in an Ireland spectacle, an Ireland game. And also, so many people are proud to support the Irish team. Of course, we didn't make it to the World Cup, but all those moments we had. Do we really want the last couple of years to be remembered for the time we invited Israel to play in our backyard, or the time we sanctioned it? Or like, look, the World Cup campaign wasn't so successful, but we fell back in love with the team. We had so many memories, and of course, like the Parrot one, like it's time to fall back in love in the team again. And it's just leaving a sour taste. And the thing is, if something doesn't happen soon, this is just going to drag on and on and on. Like there's even preparing this show, it's hard to talk about anything other than football, because everything in the news cycle is talking about that Israel game, which is still 121 days away from the first one, so it's still a long way out. Like, it's going to be a long time for the FAI. I suspect that a solution is going to be found that's not satisfactory.
Yeah, well, the pressure is going to continue to mount. Like 121 days, as you referenced, there's already media pressure, moral pressure, protests. This is all just going to like ramp up in the coming, as you said, 120 days, and FAI or UEFA or players or like somebody is going to have to make a decision on what's going to happen with the game. And for me, I hope obviously it doesn't go ahead, because I just think, as you said, like I think an empty gesture of an armband is just absolutely meaningless in this case, to be honest, or playing it behind closed doors, or we're penalised for UEFA inaction to punish Israel is also the wrong solution as well. So yeah, something will happen. I think it's just a question of what that something is going to be, as we alluded to. There's no way that they can keep the same stance if within the FAI they're calling this EGM, which means that they will have to make some sort of decision. As I said, it's just probably going to be a question of how satisfactory that decision is. On my final point, I find it incredibly hypocritical that there's mixed messages being sent, that we have these sports ministers, these government ministers saying this game needs to go ahead, and now you see two of the sports ministers are saying that they're not going to go to the game, like as if that, like, going to a Limerick, if that makes them immune to any criticism or any accountability, even though they are literally Minister for Sport in the country.
Yeah, and it was like Gavin Cooney had a great thread after the game last night on this. Like, just I don't know how going to a Limerick hurling game washes your hands of the responsibility. You were the one who made this sure this game goes ahead, and yeah, just look, I'm sure we're going to be talking about this a lot more. There's not going to be in Ireland anything that Ireland do within the next, I'd say, year that's going to overshadow this discussion. So I think we'll park it there for now, and we'll probably re-enter the discussion at another time, and we'll take a break and then we'll go back to the football.
Houlihan might find it. Deep for Hendrick, who rescues it.
Asento küll Martin või longib Breidi ja posti kaudu Iirimaa juhib 1-0 ja mida veel sellest mängust tahta, milline algus. Wouldn't it be nice if we were older, then we wouldn't have to wait so long. Wouldn't it be nice to live together in a car?
That's come down only to McCarthy. Played it on for Coleman. Coleman a chance to cross here. Seamus Coleman still. Coleman a little dink into the middle. What about that? Is that it? Have we seen the moment pass when it might have happened? Let's hope not. Houlihan. Inviting is there! Robbie Brady brings us all to our feet. Israel. No more than Ireland deserve. A fantastic goal to put Ireland in front. Now, just 6 minutes remain. And Leo.
Right, moving on to a bit of a lighter subject. We'll move back on to the football. Never an easy way to segue that back in, but look, it's as much as the news cycle is not focusing on a game and altogether, it was a dull game, especially after the protest kind of took the sting out of the game a bit, and a 1-0 game against Qatar, who never looked like they could score in a million years. There's still a lot of positives to take from it. I was a fan of playing the strongest team, or one of the strongest teams possible. I think sometimes if you play 10 or 11 new players, you never really get a proper look at like how these players could contribute. Like, we got to see what Jamie McGrath might look like in a deeper role. We got to see what Moylan looked for 45 minutes, what he might look like in attack, in our proper attack, in our strongest attack with Troy Parda and Chiodo Ogbene. But in the 75th minute, we got to look like what I suppose is a change we'll see in years to come is Jay Numa coming on for his international debut. But I mean, he's probably going to be the backup for Ogbene once he gets more senior football in his legs, and he gave a really good account of himself. Corian Dab also coming on to make his debut. It's much nicer to see these coming on into a much more competitive environment than I expect we'll see in Canada, because sometimes that's just a mismatch. But we could see how they contribute, and Uma really got fans off their feet very early on in this game. He seems to be a lot to get excited about. Also, I think we built on a point about James Banquo last week, that interesting that he's been seen as one of the more senior players. First sub made in this game. It looks like Hamer's a fan of his. Almost scored his first international
I remember
goal.
in the press conference we attended prior to the Czechia game, he was like hugely positive about James Banquo and what he brings to the setup in the season he's had. And yeah, I think it's that versatility, obviously how big and strong he is, and to be fair to him, like, he did have a really good season with Watford, was quite consistent, and yeah, definitely someone looking to the future, especially with Oma Bamidele pulling out of this squad. We obviously I think he has a knock or something, but I think Heimer did reference guys pulling out of the squad, and Abankwah being present in this camp is definitely a real positive for him. And like, as we've seen in the previous squad, how Abankwah was picked over Oma Bamidele, that is probably a trend that will continue in September if Abankwah obviously is continuing to play in the championship, and like, being present this camp is obviously going to kind of do his aspirations no harm. Yeah,
I think he's very much going to be the fourth centre back in the squad at the moment. Of course, I mean, or maybe even Liam Scales, but I think if Hamer had to pick his best squad at the moment, he had to pick his 5 best centre halves. I think Abankwah and Liam Scales are the other 2 that he's bringing with him, and that's a nice level of competition to have, as we always had in our centre backs. Liam Scales wins man of the match in this game. You can almost have a quiz, I think, of centre backs that Hamer has included in his lineups, because
it's such a competitive position for her, and I think Heimer has wanted to kind of bring different ones in, because like a lot of them are playing at a very similar level. And I remember that point Heimer made at the very start of his reign about how little was between so many Ireland players in the national pool, because they're obviously all playing at such a similar level. And I think him wanted to bring in different centre backs like Mark McGuinness, like obviously Abankwah here, Oma Bamidele, nearly butchered that. I think it just all points to just how strong that position is.
Who else is that? He brought Shane Duffy in for
Jimmy
one
Dunn.
camp. Jimmy Dunn. Who else?
John Egan, obviously.
John Egan. Are we missing one?
We probably are missing one.
He's brought in a lot for like one camp only. But I suppose the point we're trying to make here is that, like, it seems like he's experimented a lot with these centre halves, and I feel like he's going to settle on Abankwah because as well that ability to play
fullback. Yeah.
I mean, sometimes you look at a player. Obviously, I go to a lot of Galway United games, and when a manager is very specific, like John Caulfield is with his players, sometimes you bring in a new player and you're like, oh, he's gonna love him, which is what I immediately thought of Chris Twardek when he came in this season. I just feel that way about Abankwah. Like, I think Hamer lacks a particular set of skills, which is just being incredibly physical. And when I say physical doesn't only mean strength. Physical can mean like athleticism. And
He's aggressiveness as well.
Yeah,
like.
And I think he brings everything that Hamer wants. On Uma, it's going to be interesting where his next steps are. He's still so young. Like, he's doing
Ballon d'Or shouts.
I've seen people comparing him.
Someone's done a step over in Ireland jersey. Like, are we going to qualify for the next 5 tournaments?
Have you seen the people saying that, like, he runs and looks the exact same way as Rafael Leao?
Yeah,
of 15 minutes of football.
I've been hearing them shouts since the game ended last night. On Jaden, obviously someone who we've obviously seen a lot of coming from the 17s World Cup, where he was getting double marked, triple marked, looked so dangerous in the clips we've seen from his underage stuff this past season with Benfica. The ridiculous free kicks, playing obviously for Benfica, elite academy environment, playing in the UEFA Youth League, doing really well. Like, he's someone we obviously had high hopes for, but then, like, seeing him in the flesh, seeing just how talented he looks, his confidence, his flair. I know it's a point Shane Flynn mentioned about how Irish players don't have that arrogance almost, like he was saying in England.
Oh, he's got that arrogance.
Yeah, he was Shane Flynn. I remember the point he was saying is, like, he's saying in England players will literally want to embarrass you, like, in terms of taking you on or nutmegging you or whatever, or just being assertive in how they play, and you can really see that in Jaden's game, and that is something we just don't have. Obviously, I think Jaden, like, is going to be, obviously we don't want to say too much, you don't want to put too much pressure on, but it is nice to integrate him now, because he is going to have an international career for us, hopefully. But yeah, in terms of those next steps, like I think it is important that our expectations don't get too high for him. Like you've seen with Troy, you've seen with Evan, like Evan Ferguson, like a lot of, well, not a lot, but some Irish fans have maybe written off Evan Ferguson completely now with all these talented guys in the attacking positions we have now. A lot of like UK football fans would have written Ferguson off now, and I think it's really important just to remember how, like, you look at Parrott's trajectory, you look at his path, how he's forged his career, and how he's kind of obviously went to Holland and stuff and really succeeded. It's important to remember that these players aren't going to just continue on that upward trajectory and reach that ceiling really quickly. Like, it is a process, and we don't want to just get ultimately way too carried away with Jayden. I think that's important to say, because we've seen with Troy and Evan how that hype and kind of overzealous bit of faith being put in these young guys is kind of, it can be damaging for their careers.
Yeah, and I was thinking about the fact that his next steps are going to be really interesting, because he's made no secret that he had a great relationship with Mourinho. Mourinho's complimented him on a number of occasions, but Mourinho's just left Benfica into that mental move back to Real Madrid. But I was thinking, like, oh, and that next step for him is going to go get first team football, but he's recently just turned 18. I mean, he could do another year of academy football with no bother. Like, there's no real rush on him to get into first team.
With Benfica's second team obviously is in the second tier. Portugal finished 10th there in the most recent season, but like I said, like I think he referenced on the press conference, they have a professional team in the second tier made up of obviously academy players and players for the future. So like Jayden is, what, he's 6'2", 6'3", physically outstanding. Like him getting regular minutes at that professional level, second tier Portugal obviously, but a really good environment for him. I think that'd be unbelievable for him, and obviously we don't know, but that would probably be the likely case. I can't see Benfica shilling him out on loan. Like, I think the development path is there for him to kind of play football in the second tier and develop, and if he, obviously depending on the rate he develops and the rate and the level he's playing at, determine if we see him kind of back in the setup in the near future. But I think it's important for him to just kind of obviously stay on the development path he's on, because I think he referenced that in the press conference that Benfica had really put forward a really good pathway for him and how he's going to get into the first team when they signed them, which is something that some clubs don't do, coming from a Celtic fan.
Yeah, and I suppose as well, we'll probably see more of him in Canada. Like when we said there's going to be more experimental lineup, maybe he'll get a start from there. In Canada where he's going to be doing his leaving cert. I don't know if you've seen that story, but he's going to be doing his leaving cert in Montreal at like 4:30 in the morning or something. I
didn't see that, because I've seen in the interviews, Tony asked him, have you done your leaving cert yet? And he said, no, I'm going to do it. He didn't even give a concrete answer. He didn't say he's doing it in Canada. He said, like, I don't know, I think it's in the next month or something. Yeah,
like he's got to do his papers over there, and because it has to be done at the same time, I think one of the FAI officers going over has to act like as an invigilator. But it's mad, he has to get up at like 4:30 in the morning there because of the time difference, and do the leaving cert at 5:30 before then join for team training, and then play later in the evening. I think his English and maths papers are due.
It's a crazy situation.
I mean, it's some life being a talented football player at that age, imagine, like. But yeah, I mean, even a banquet we were talking about earlier, I remember him doing his leaving cert when he was at Udinese as well. Like, so it's something that doesn't get often talked about.
I know it's a point we've made before. Like, how, like, do you agree that it is really important to get these guys who obviously have really, really high ceilings, may not be playing in that first team senior environment yet, like playing regularly, obviously training with first team squads, but how important do you think to get them young guys in with high ceilings is in terms of obviously looking to the future of the national team?
Well, it's nice to give them a taste of international football early, because you're giving them more of an experience in a more professional training camp in a place where there's probably more expectations, but it gives you get better relations not only with the manager but with the coaching staff, whether it be John O'Shea or Paddy McCarthy, or who've just recently signed new contracts, of course. But you know, you're going to be meeting up with these players that you hope to play with in the future. As I alluded to in the different conversation earlier, like, this is a very young Irish squad. I think the core of our squad is made up about 24, 25 year olds. When Uma's going to be maybe breaking into first team football, or maybe he's more of an established player at 21, 22 years old, if he's a starting member of the Ireland team, he's going to be playing with players like Parrott and stuff who are going to be reaching their peak years. So it's good that you get those relations early.
I think it's important as well to, like we've seen in the pre-Kenny era, of how how imbalanced Ireland's squad was, how imbalanced our national pool was. the lack of real talented young players. Like, that obviously forced Kenny's hand and having to throw all these guys that were just not ready for international football into that pressure cooker of playing for Ireland's senior team. And you obviously took a number of years for them to get comfortable at level, to find their feet in their club careers. And obviously the main point that we talked about at the time with that squad and with that national pool was the lack of players at like 26, 27, 28, like a lack of that kind of age bracket of players, real quality players of that kind of age. And like that was kind of almost a lost generation for us. And I think it's really important to us, despite the national pool and being a much better place now in terms of we do have those guys reaching those years now that are really settled in their club careers, even though we do kind of have that development, it is important to integrate these guys like Uma, like Finneran into the squad and continue just developing the national pool. Because as a direct comparison, like if you look at Scotland, they're obviously at the minute at a much higher kind of place in terms of where they're going. Obviously at the World Cup this summer, was at the most recent Euros, but like if you look at the average age of their squad, I think is 29. There's a number of positions like goalkeeper, striker, where they have very, very little depth, very little coming up, and they've committed Steve Clarke till 2030. I think Steve Clarke, notoriously conservative manager, hasn't really developed that next generation of Scotland players, and that's going to really kill them once the likes of McGinn, Christie, Tierney or Robertson retire. That's going to be a real problem for them. And I think it definitely is not a given that Heimer done this in integrating these younger players. Obviously he's here till the Euro 2028, but it's definitely a big positive that he has done that, and he is looking to the next generation of Irish players rather than just kind of playing a conservative and looking to get the best out of his next 2 years.
Yeah, and a final point on Jaden Uma. I seriously think this is not a situation as well that you're just giving a young lad a chance and we'll hear back from you in a few years' time. I think we've seen in extra time in the Prague when we played Czech Republic. Once Benny went off, we had to change the system. We didn't have a like-for-like replacement. Obviously, that's kind of the manager's been looking at that situation. Obviously, with Millie Ali coming into the squad, I think Emaku got called up again for the Granada game. It seems like a situation that they're trying to solve. But bring Jada Uma in, like he's been talked about a lot. I think there's been a lot of attention on him, and I think the Ireland setup won't be too upset about that. I can really see him being involved going forward, just purely, even before he's ready, just purely for that pace and the physical ability that just what you lose from Ogbene, who's just running power so crucial from getting the team up the pitch. You know, when Jimmy Dunn came on in Prague, Jimmy Dunn's he's a good player. He's not Ogbene in terms of he's a very different player. He's centre back who moved to right back. He's made a good career now as a right back. Now, if we had someone like Uma to come on in Prague, you're going to have someone who can drive the ball up the pitch without the change to a two-striker system. I think that's something. If you read in between the lines in the last couple of squads, it's very clear that the Ireland setup are trying to find a backup for Ogbene, and I think Uma has the right.
Yeah,
profile.
I would probably be a bit less positive that it's going to be him in the near future. Obviously, depends on his development. But I don't think
it will. I don't think it necessarily will have to be him. But I'm saying he's got the profile of a player that
and you
be.
can see that Heimer is definitely trying to find that player. Like obviously we've had a Basele there, but I just don't like seeing him in attacking areas. Like he's a right wing back for me. He uses that speed, that dynamism, but I just don't like seeing him that far up the pitch. I just don't think he's that type of player. We obviously have Idemo Maku, who had an inconsistent season, but is in that similar mould to Ogbene, has played in a two-striker system before with the 21s, is dynamic, is really good in one-on-one situations, can take the team up the pitch. But yeah, I think you can definitely see Heimer trying to find that alternative to Ogbene, because so much of our game in Czechia when we tired was just getting the ball up to Ogbene and getting us up the pitch.
And I actually don't think it's too difficult to find that alternative to him, because I had this conversation with someone on X last night, and it's just international football is a funny game, right? And I think it's clear to everyone that Ogbene is an extremely limited player, and that's not putting him down. He's got a couple of skills that he's very good at, and I think that's why he hasn't made it so much in club football, is because he doesn't offer that end product. Maybe he'd be more effective for a team that plays wing backs, but in international football, sometimes you just need somebody who can run quick and can beat his man, which Ogbene does 9 times out of 10. And he's been fantastic for Ireland. He's one of our most important players.
And to be fair to Chio, this season, he was thrown in with that absolute basket case that was Sheffield United, the sacking of managers using AI to recruit players. He was
still excellent in Prague.
But I'm saying you're talking about his club career hasn't been great. I would kind of excuse him this season, given that absolute basket case of football club he was shown into with Sheffield United.
And I want
Hopefully looking
as well.
to next season that he gets out and goes somewhere a bit more stable that does value him, because I think obviously like we're talking about like how good he is at club level, like again playing at championship level for him, it is still a high level. I know we obviously in our eyes, like watching cheer for Ireland, we think he is the next coming of God, but like him playing at championship level, I think he is obviously kind of enough for us, enough for him to be in the kind of starting 11.
Yeah, because I think as long as he's still the freak athlete that he remains to be, I think he's always going to be effective for Ireland. My point in this regarding to Uma would be that he wouldn't necessarily have to develop all the rest of his skills so rapidly for him to be effective for an Ireland team, because he just offers that pace that we need. And that's something that's sometimes been lacking in that squad. Because at the end of the day, he only has to put himself above the likes of Ali or you said like Abisele to feature in this squad. So I actually could see him coming in and out of maybe Nations League squads
and
sooner than we imagine.
Imagine in a world where he's playing second tier Benfica, he's training with Benfica's first team, which is a likely scenario. Do you think he should be in and around squads if he's in that kind of scenario in September? Do you think he needs to be playing obviously higher level?
It just depends on who the alternative is. Do you fancy him over who are you going to play instead of him? Like who's going to be the Ogbene backup? It depends.
I suppose it does depend on like what Amaku's forms like. Menelik
Yeah.
Ali, those guys are a similar profile if they are playing well. Because if they're not, like again, there's not that many players that can do what Chio's role, and as you said, the likeliness to Jaden is there.
Yeah. Moving on, and maybe to someone at the other end of the scale, it was another 90 minutes completed for Seamus Coleman. We still don't know what his summer destination is going to be. I think he said he's going to have the summer off and have a think about it. Another David Sain reference, I've seen him putting forward the idea that if he goes to a League of Ireland side, maybe a League of Ireland side that's competing in European competition, he can complete the Marquinhos role. If you're not aware of what the Marquinhos role is, basically Marquinhos has played very little football domestically in France this season and has kind of been saving himself for Champions League games.
Much like the whole PSG attack and important players.
Yeah, and could Coleman do that for a League of Ireland side and just play the big important games for Europe? Because he's only played 20 minutes of Premier League football this season, but has completed went into extra time against Prague, went into 90 minutes here. His body seems up for the odd game. It's an interesting debate to be had. It's kind of not really sure where his next move is going to be. Would you take him at Celtic?
Yeah, Irish player at Celtic. Can I say no to that question? Like, would I be shot? Yeah, right back. Do we need him? Probably not. For the
big games?
For the culture, for the good vibes, yeah. And for him to play some minutes, I think, I definitely would take him. Yeah, and I think that's a very good point that you referenced David Snyde's point about him kind of operating that Marquinhos role in League of Ireland. Definitely an option for him. Does he want to stay in England maybe with his family as well? Could be another aspect of that.
Yeah, I think he's probably going to make a family decision.
I think it was referenced there's a lot of clubs, a championship. Would it be near Liverpool? Kind of that, where's Liverpool in England? I don't know. Maybe that's not a good point, but I would imagine if he goes championship, it'll be obviously geography kind of based, his decision where he goes. And if he's playing championship football, if he's getting some minutes, I don't think he's going to be starting week in, week out wherever he goes. Obviously with his body, I think he's going to be in there like as a leader, and what he provides for the squad, it's invaluable. The broader question I'd have is, was this camp maybe an opportunity to bed someone in there that is pushing? I don't really know what the option would be. There's no one really standing out.
I think the effect that he made in the last 4 qualifying games, I think throws
No,
that
I don't mean replacing him. I mean just someone there, like behind him. I don't know what. Like obviously, Ogbene can play right wing back with Jacob Bryan there.
I reckon it's just going to end up being a banquet in the future, to be honest.
Yeah, because like to be fair, the right back options there is no one there playing week in week out in championship or really excelling there. I think it is. You are probably correct there. I think it probably is a Banqua's or Jacob Bryan's or Ogbene's role to share going forward.
We're going to see more experimentation in Canada. Also, a lot of players on the bench who didn't get to make their Ireland debut last night.
Dawson Devoy in Canada?
Dawson Devoy, I imagine it's going to be a midfield of Dawson Devoy and Joe Hodge. There's not really many other options in midfield.
Pretty exciting midfield.
Yeah. I would have liked the Devoid to play against Qatar, like against a weaker opposition, because Canada are a better side than us. And
I only recently bought the I was talking to you about the World Soccer mag previewing the World Cup and all the teams. I was looking at Canada's squad, and they actually do have a number of, like, they do have like a healthy squad now of guys playing in the top 5 leagues.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting if we do go with that midfield against Canada.
It's a World Cup warm-up for
yeah,
them
so they're
too,
going to be taking it serious. Do we want to get into the debate about Devoy pulling out of the squad? Have you an opinion on it?
Not really. I think it's been overplayed a bit. I think at the end of the day, that Dublin derby last week was, people say, could have been a title decider.
It's the last one at Dalymount.
Yeah,
you can completely see why he literally is Bohemians. He's their best player. He literally runs things for them. Like,
and you've seen, oh my God, him and Galway the other day was taking the absolute piss, which is
different level.
Which is probably not the most difficult thing to do against a Galway United midfield, I suppose. But like, I've seen a lot of debate as well saying, which is true, that the League of Ireland in the last couple of years has been won by this mid-season point. And if you look at where Shells a couple of years ago, when they were great until this point and kind of coast at the end of the season, it was a very important game for Bohs to try and catch Rovers. In the end, they didn't do it, but they played very well. Yeah, it's an awkward time to be calling up Irish players. I think it's worked out fine, to be honest.
Damien Duff summed it up well. Like, I think he gave the two sides of the coin. He didn't really get off the fence, but he said, like, if you're looking at it from like Heimer point of view, when else is he going to get to play Dawson Devoy in an international fixture and see if he's up to that level?
Yeah,
especially in the coming months with the Nations League and stuff. On the other hand, we've obviously talked about Dawson wanting to play the last ever Dublin derby in Dalymount, how big that is, how big the game is in general, in terms of where the league title is going to go. And then obviously, does Dawson miss out now going into the Canada game? Does he not start now because he doesn't have that obviously extra few days training with the team? We don't know. So
I just sick of it, to be honest. I really I just don't care that much. Like, it's not I really want Dawson Devoy to play for Ireland.
I am really excited to see him against Canada, whether he starts or he comes on. I think just his profile of player, and I just really do think he has the quality to play for Ireland at international level, and I hope we see him.
I think his wellness right as well, if he wants to play the game for Bohs, that he can go and do it. You know, it's outside of an international window. I think you should be able to leave it in the players' hands, and I think this is the best solution.
The whole conversation has been draining, to be fair.
This is the new cycle where not much is going on, and you kind of have
have to over-egg these issues that really aren't that complex or interesting.
Yeah, look, I think they came to the best solution where he misses the Qatar game and comes for Canada. I think that makes the most sense, and really excited to see him.
Adam Brennan playing a left wing back would also be a big one for me. I'd like to see him get significant minutes.
He was one of the ones who didn't get in play. I imagine Melia might start this game. He literally got a sprint around the pitch at the end yesterday. Yeah, well, I suppose it's the fact that he has now made his debut and he's been integrated in. I think that's the main point with Mason, rather than the impact he's made. Yeah, it would have been nice to see him get more minutes in a stronger team. Definitely, yeah. But I imagine it's going to be a much changed squad. Joe Hodge will probably make his debut as well. I always forget that Joe Hodge has never played a senior game for Ireland because he's played so many underage internationals. Yeah, he had a ridiculous, I think he's played an absolute ridiculous amount of under-21s matches for us. It's like 21 games or something. He's just been around so long. I think he won Scholar of the Year at City, at Wolves, maybe 3-4 years ago, when he was really breaking on the scene. And yeah, he just feels like he's been around for years. For him to not have a cap is definitely surprising. Yeah, I suppose we'll see all the changes as well. A lot of the senior players leaving the squad, including Caoimhin Kelleher, so maybe Ed McGinty or someone like that comes and goes. I think Travers is joining up with the squad for it as well, so he might be expected to play. But yeah, I mean, not too much point trying to guess what the squad is going to be because we really don't have a clue. But I think we've mentioned who we want to see get minutes and get played there, and very exciting to see some of those players get first team minutes as it always is. Just after we finished recording last week, there was the announcement that UEFA announces plans to introduce new qualifying format ahead of the 2030 World Cup. Basically, they're going to be moving to the Swiss style system for the 2030 qualifying, which is what we've seen in the Champions League in the last 2 years in the kind of group stage. The 36 highest ranked countries, which will include Ireland, will be split into 3 groups of 12 in League A and League B. League B will feature 3 groups of 6 or 2 of 6 and 1 of 7, depending on the number of competing nations. Full details of how qualification will be achieved are still to be fine-tuned, but UEFA did confirm that the 3 group winners in League A would qualify direct for the finals of the Euro or the World Cup, with the rest to be allocated via system. Yeah, it's not gone through yet. I don't really know what to think of this. Yeah, I'm the exact same. I don't really know. Does this improve our chances of qualification or
does it lessen it? I haven't really looked into this.
It's very hard to tell. And Phil Murray is outside staring in at us at the moment. Friend of the show, Phil Murray, of course. But yeah, it's hard to tell. It seems like it's going to add a more competitive balance, because this is probably more for the nations like England who qualify every year, to give them more entertaining games.
Yeah, I think it's the whole it's the whole theory around why they changed the Champions League to have more of those heavyweight clashes, which I suppose will be nice in terms of get to see them more in qualifying, but at the same time does it take away the novelty of like the Dutch playing Germany at a World Cup or something like that. Maybe the Nations League's already done that, I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Well, they've already butchered the group stage of this World Cup so much, so I don't know how we can get too much more worse than that.
It can't get any worse, can it?
No, but I mean, if it means that we're not going to be playing Denmark every year, or the countries that we played all the time.
I can't wait for the first qualification draw to give us Denmark, Greece,
Gibraltar
and Armenia.
Right, if we can get some new games out of it would be.
To be fair, the Nations League, Austria, we played Austria, haven't we? Austria, who was in Greece? Austria, Israel, and who's the third team? Kosovo. We haven't played Kosovo.
We haven't played
Kosovo is the one we haven't played.
I don't know. Not too much opinion, not strongly in favour of this or not. To be honest, I'd probably be more leaning on the side of in favour. I think qualification has gotten stale, as even just like a football fan perspective. This is something new. Normally, I in terms of a Champions League fan, prefer the old format, but for international qualifying, this might make things a bit more interesting and see maybe it'll add a bit more emphasis to the Nations
League. I think it is trying to get rid of those games where England beat Armenia or England beat Gibraltar 12-0, and it's a needless exercise for both teams.
I think it'd be interesting to see how it works out. I could see it going through as well. I think most.
And you've seen the excitement of the end of Ireland's campaign. Obviously, the conclusion as well of Scotland's campaign with their game against Denmark. Those games between similar ranked nations, similar quality nations, when everything is on the line, was just so refreshing and so exciting, as we've seen back in November.
Yeah, I hopefully they can kind of create that system somehow. And just finally, before we go, funding worth €9.2 million have been approved for Shelbourne FC and Toker Park project, and it's been a community hub project. The approval came from the Department of Justice under the Immigrant Investor Programme, a scheme which closed to new applications in 2023, allowed wealthy individuals to seek Irish residency through donations to certain projects. I'm really struggling to speak today. Maybe it's something to do with the fact I got home at 2 a.m. But funding for facilities, good
news. Yes,
it's something we've banged the drum a lot about as well.
I know the high regard in which you're held and the respect people have for you, including kids who are wondering why the toy man is being in the news so much.
I want them to be happy and hopeful and proud to be Irish. Really.
That's exactly.
I'd like to add, people have families.
Yeah.
My relationship with the children of Ireland is so important to me. I know that sounds grandiose, but actually it is. I've never seen anything like it. My name has been desperately sullied.
In the list, Brian? Or I saw you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But you never saw me with cocaine.
I never saw you with cocaine. You were always very clever.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if any of you have been cancelled before, but let me tell you, you don't want to be there.
So it looked like he was complicit in this whole RTE mess. So I'm sorry. We have. This has been the worst of times.
James, before we go, I have an idea of something fun we could do. I know you're an avid Football Manager enjoyer, like I am, and we mention on every show. You see the World Cup mode that's just come out this week?
I did.
Yeah.
And I started a save with Ireland.
As did I, replaying the entire qualification rounds.
Are we actually experts or are we podcast wafflers?
Yes.
This is the stress test.
I have an idea for a segment, as in we should replay the entire of qualification, compare results and see how we get on.
See who calls up Jack Moylan more.
Yeah, who is the better manager between both of us? I mean, I'm flying so far. I'm not going to give too many spoilers.
You've played this year's FM, though I haven't.
Yeah.
So you have that advantage of knowing the game.
My first game against Portugal away from home, and I won 2-1 with Will Ferry getting to assist. Yeah, wing-back system. Wing-back system, what a surprise. But that might be something fun. We can both kind of go head-to-head and see who can hopefully make it to the World Cup. And I suppose we'll update you on that
next week. Yeah.
Unless we just don't do it.
Yeah, or if we don't do it, we'll just cut this out.
Yeah. This has been Ireland Radar in the Flirt FM studios again this week. James, oh my God, we forgot to beg.
Yes, if you enjoyed this show, if you've enjoyed other shows, obviously our most recent interview with Zach Elbazetti, forgot to throw that out there if anyone's interested in that. But yeah, if you enjoy listening to us, if you want to hear more from us, you can rate us on Spotify, follow us on Spotify. We have also upload to YouTube. You can subscribe to us over there. Give us a cheeky like, which would be very much appreciative. And obviously we have an X account as well for just general commentary on Irish football, and obviously being able then to get notified when our podcast does come out. But yeah, I think that's enough begging, is it?
Yeah. Also, of course, on the website we've got articles like my match report that went up yesterday if you want
which is an outstanding read. If anybody is looking to read more on the Ireland Qatar game from last night.
Thank you. Yeah, no interview this week as I said, but if you're interested in what we've talked about today, I would recommend going back and listening to our Daniel Lambert interview a couple of months back. I think all those topics are still extremely relevant to this conversation, and I think we're probably going to try working towards having our radio faces on camera for YouTube. Just need to sort out maybe webcams and stuff like that.
And definitely over the next few months, hopefully we continue to get some interesting guests on. So do keep an eye out for that.
Let us know who you want to hear from, whether it be any guests or journalists or anything like that. Alright, this has been Ireland Radar. We'll catch you next week. Thank you for listening and goodbye.